This is Richard back at you. We got Miss Annie in the house protecting the shop. She's hanging out. She's really protective this morning. We got Miss Teresa on the camera, the best. I want to thank her definitely. We got John's Power Glide in the house. Goes behind a little nitrous small block. We did this tranny, I'm saying about 5 or 6 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure how many passes it's got on it, but it looks like it's got a few. He said it was working fine, but they're going to spray a bigger shot of nitrous on it this year. So they're just upgrading the motor, upgrading the tranny. Basically just want to see how good it lasted, what it looks like on the inside, huh, Teresa?
Yep.
So, but anyway, we're going to take off the trans brake solenoid first. So you got a ground that goes to the case, and you got a power that comes down from your trans brake button. We have a Trans Specialties trans brake solenoid, which is a very good company. We use a lot of their parts. So if you hook power to it, this little thing shoots out, pushes a valve forward, then it releases back. This is actually cleanable. You can take the snap rings out and clean this up really good and get all the trash out of it. Now there is a valve in here. Sometimes you can pull them out the back, and then sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to physically put the valve body, pull the valve body, excuse me, to get it out. So, yep, that one ain't coming out. They make different ones. They make some with springs in them, some without springs in them. The quick release ones usually have the spring that helps push the valve off, push the solenoid valve back.
Well, you got a lot going on over here, Richard.
We do.
Woo.
Waiting on parts, stuff like that. Didn't want to order my Power Glide parts for the dragster until we got this Power Glide tore apart, see if we needed planets or anything like that. We did get our 400 done for our rock crawler. You notice we did get our 8 bolts in there like we always do. We don't let them ever leave with an altar belt without all the bolts in it on any power level. It doesn't matter. The bell housing wasn't designed to be held on with 6 bolts. We have our O-ring here. Now you can see the difference in the rear case support back here, tail housing support. This is a factory cast iron one here, long shaft here. Now if you come over here and look at this dragster, got a totally different housing on the back of it. And then we have the dragster shorty shaft here. You can see here the difference. And then the tail housing. This will not work in this. It has to have a place to put a bushing and a seal, which these splines are the ones that are twisted. We showed you in our recent video. You see a crack right across here even kind of. Yeah. So it's pretty wiped out. But anyway, cast iron support. See a bushing in here. We also have another bushing in the case. We have a metal plate here, and then we have a gasket. Now, since you're running this piece here, you have to run the metal plate. Get that plate and then the gasket. On the dragster style, you only have to run the gasket. There's no plate. Okay. You see here the bushing's been running. Looks really good. It's got some staining, I guess you could say. Now you can see this shaft here, the color of the shaft. I'll kind of go over these shafts with you just a little bit. Now this here is probably a 300M shaft, I'm probably thinking. Same way with this shaft here is a 300M. If you go to a Vasco, they're almost the exact same color, but usually the Vascos don't have rings on them. They're pretty much a solid shaft. Now this is probably like a 4340 shaft or something. You can see the difference in the color. This metal here is 10 times better than this metal here. This is a really early shaft. You can see it's a Power Glide spline where this is a 350 400 style spline. So in other words, you could put a torque converter out of a 350 or a 400 in this Power Glide with this type of shaft. So pretty neat. I run the ringless shafts in the Dirty Bird because once you start making about 2,000 horsepower, you'll start breaking these off right here where they've been machined, that square cut. So, pretty neat. I mean, there's a lot of different upgrades you can do to these.
And depending on how deep your pockets are.
Just, yep. Now you notice this one has no scatter shield or anything around it like that dragster had. Which it's over here. So I turn the camera, you can see the scatter shield that went around for the flywheel, and this went over the top of it for the internals. That way if the planet blows up or anything like that, it can't come out and go through the car. Now we talked about the dual ring servos here. Here's the dragster one, only has one sealing ring. This one here has two. See the difference? We always want to put two sealing ring style in there, especially at high pressure. It helps the band hold, keeps the vehicle from creeping on the trans brake on the floor. So nice piece there. Now your factory ring will go here out of your overhaul kit. But your rubber seal right here will not be in that overhaul kit. You'll have to get that from whoever you got that piece from. So just check your seal. It still could be good. Not holding that little bracket on there. That's how the bolt. So we'll kind of put that back together. That way we know it goes there. Well, it still looks red.
Yeah.
Like I say, when I rebuild my tranny, I always pull the pan off after a race and clean it out. There's always going to be trash. A lot of guys don't do that though. So you can just see all the metal in that pan. I mean, it's just glowing with metal.
A little bit, yeah.
Definitely, huh? Look at that. Now, a lot of that metal probably come out of the converter. We'll get it in here and see, but normally when you see metal in a Power Glide, it's usually somewhere else other than the tranny. Filter looks clean. That's what I like about a deep pan. It keeps all the trash below the filter. If not, this filter would be covered in that metal on the top if it was down lower or sucking from the bottom. It'd be terrible. Since we have an adapter in the deep pan, there's going to be two gaskets on here. One here, one here. You don't want to leave one of them off, it'll suck air. We have our detent spring here. You always want to turn this little piece here to make sure your lever is in the middle. You turn it to the right or to the left and it'll keep it rolling. Instead of rubbing on the side this way or rubbing on the side that way, always try to turn it where it stays in the middle. And so it don't always stay there, but I like to try to line them up a little like that. So you can turn it. It's kind of jicky operation the way they made it anyway. It's kind of a last minute thing, it kind of looks like. Put your spring and your bolt, your little thing there and your spring. And then we have our retainer that retains the manual valve and linkage together. See here? If I take and pull that out, that'll come out if you ain't careful, because it'll move side to side, and that slot right there is what physically keeps it in the valve. Okay,
So they built a problem into it, and then they built a fix it to fix that problem.
Well, they probably realized, well, we better figure out some way to line this up or keep it lined up. But see how that come out?
Yeah.
I can put it back in there.
Yeah.
But that there is what physically keeps that lined up all the time.
And that's really all it's for.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy?
Real exciting there. We have our band feed tube here. Anytime these valve bodies got gaskets on them, I hate it. Because a lot of valve body gaskets, the company made the gasket just for their trans brake style. The factory gaskets won't interchange. Where this valve body that we rebuilt for the dragster, it actually maintained factory valve body gaskets. Well, this one here, I can tell by looking at it that it's probably not going to be the same gasket. Let's take it apart and see. You don't want to ever tear the gasket, so then you're going to have to figure out whose valve body it is, call that company, and then get your gaskets. I can see a lot of companies use the factory gasket, but some of them decide to make their own, and that's when you get in trouble. And we do have our trans brake valve here. It does have a spring in it. Helps push the valve off, makes the trans brake a lot quicker. Don't want to lose that spring. See, here we have our valve body gaskets. Now this gasket here is totally different than a factory gasket. I got a kit here. Let me pull them out of here. You just got to be careful. See how many holes these has in it compared to that one there? Hardly nothing. Now they do make 4 different gaskets. You have to, even on the factory Power Glide, and only 2 they stay together as partners. So this gasket here, we'll have to be very careful trying to get it off. Of course, there's another one under here. It's a little valve body plate. 90% of the time, there's no check ball in when it's a cast iron valve body. If it's a billet aluminum valve body, you better look for about a ball bearing, or not a ball bearing, but a gosh dang, what am I trying to think? A marble. They're about the size of a marble. But that gasket's stuck on there pretty good. We just have to take our time to get that off there and make sure we don't tear it, and clean it really good and try to use the gasket again. Because a lot of times these valve bodies aren't marked on whose they are, and next thing you know, you'll never find out whose valve body this is. There's no mark on it at all. Normally they stamp something somewhere, don't see it. A lot of times it's stamped on top of here, anywhere. Sometimes it's even stamped on this flat side. But look at that, there's just nothing here to identify that valve body. So that's terrible.
You're going to have to do your homework.
Yes, definitely. Of course, we have our band adjustment bolt that comes through here and goes on this part here, and this piece right here, this anchor, and this anchor. This one here sets on the servo. If I can get it out of there. This way. Of course, I just went and put these up. What did I do with them? One part of it. This one here will come out too. You just got to get it just right. Come on. There we go. And then this sticks in here like that. Here's a brand new band right here. Kind of goes in there like that. And this one here goes on here. And then you have your servo. It comes in here like this. Kind of goes together. You adjust your band here, then your fluid comes on the back and pushes the servo forward, which applies the band. Pretty simple.
That's just nifty.
Yep. And then we have all of our park stuff right here, which this already come out. Let's try and get it back in there. No, it ain't gonna happen. We have our little spring here that keeps the park pawl out of the lugs of the ring gear. Kind of weird, it sets in this little hole right here. Set this down in like that. Pretty hard to put in there sometimes. Yeah, it's really hard to do. Put it in there like that, then you bolt this on, sets in there like that. And then when you put it in park, this pushes forward and pushes this in. Pretty simple. Kind of a bear to put together sometimes, but looks pretty dirty, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. Not too bad though.
You see, we always double seal our bolts. Anytime, even though those bolts have an O-ring or a gasket, we always put a little bit of sealant anyway. And these pumps will have threads tapped into them. We can get a slide hammer in there and pull it out. A lot easier. Well, training has been warm a few times, feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Get over here and get our pump apart first. You can see here we already have high pressure rings on it. I like the orange ones because the body of the seal is a lot wider, fills the gap up a lot better. The blue ones are a little bit narrower, and it lets the ring flop around in the groove there a lot more. But I do like the orange ones. Like I said, they're a lot wider and they just seal a lot better to me. I'm hoping we have a good pump, because pumps right now, guys, are very hard to find. Stator feels pretty good, but let's look at the body. Yeah, the body's starting to get wear. Now you can see here where we come in here and we drill a hole right here in the line pressure, and we'll come in here and we'll put a little groove in here. It doesn't look the best, but believe me, just that what I do right there, it puts oil on the back of this gear and makes this gear survive a lot longer. I learned that from Tom. That he does them all that way. It don't have to look real pretty. You just want to, once you do cut it, you want to just clean it up good. But at least another pump body and gears. Say 5 years of that. That's pretty good. Excuse me. The old band's actually pretty burnt looking, pretty thick still in the grooves though. You know, it's got material on it, but you can definitely tell it's been in there a long, long time. Tips are starting to get a little thin on the tips. But we always upgrade the band anyway, put a new one in there. If I can find an old used band though, those are probably the better bands for material wise and stuff. I just like them. Okay, this is always a area you want to look at really close because of the load on this small gear. You notice the gear is straight cut. It's not angle cut like the factory ones are. And so I can't see it really good without my glasses. I can see a really heavy load print on the gear. You can see where it's never touched here and it's touched there. Mm-hmm. Actually starting to move a little bit there. I'll have to TIG weld that in there. Well, that'll stay, but just mainly want to look for any pitting and stuff like that. Looks pretty good still. Have our clutch hub here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 clutches in the high drum. That's pretty good. When our dragster only had 4, remember that?
Yep.
Where the sealing rings run, it still looks really good. You can always Scotch-Brite this, just take some Scotch-Brite, spin it in here and kind of clean it up. Now the old bushing, you can tell the bushing's starting to really take a beating. Mm-hmm. Almost looks like it's been hot through here. Because some of these I do use the 4L60 pump bushing, the Teflon coated bushings, and that could be it right there. That could be what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
The factory Power Glide bushing is just a Babbitt bushing, but the 4L60E pump bushing will fit right in there.
Good to know.
Good to know. We got our Lower Planet ring gear. What I like about these, the sound of them. Got that old ring to them. The factory one's just as a thud. This is a straight cut ring because of the Planet straight cut. Factory one will be an angle cut. Even the gears in here would be angle cut. They wouldn't be straight.
That's pretty.
It is pretty, huh? You have a little small bearing right down in here that comes out. Now this does not have a race on this side. The gear down inside is the race for the bearing. So it's in there just like that, and then this gear sits in there. Like that, so. Pull that out, just don't want to lose it. There's another bearing here. This bearing will go either direction. Doesn't matter, just want to check and make sure it's good. Check right here for any wear, because you got another bushing down in here. In the case right here. Now this bushing right here is different than this bushing right here. This is a narrow bushing, it's not very wide. This bushing down here has a groove in it and it's a wide bushing. Actually I'll show you, I got a bushing kit over here. You can see it here. This bushing here is the one that sets down in the support. This bushing here, the groove in it, sets down in the case. I always Loctite this bushing in the case. I don't so much the bushing in the support. Will this bushing fit into here? You betcha it will. So you can always put a wide bushing there if you got an extra one. Extra one ain't going to come in a kit, but you can order them separately through Transtar. So pretty simple.
Pretty simple.
And you also got to remember, I've already got this stacked up. The more clutches you put in this high gear drum, the taller this hub's got to be to accommodate for it, okay? So if you get a 10 clutch in here, your hub's going to be a 1/4 inch taller to accommodate for those clutches. If not, the clutch, it won't even reach them. It'll just, you'll put them in there and they'll just look pretty. Here's my opening. There it is. Now this snap ring only likes to go in one way, and that's the right way. You stick this end in first, and then this end's going to lay in like that. If you stick this in first, it's going to try to hit right there and not go in. So you want to put that in first, that way it just lays in there like that. Snap ring's the same on both sides, there's no difference. Now you can see here these clutches are starting to get some wear on them too. We go 1, 2, 3. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 6 clutches back here. But this is how you got to remember, just like this tranny over here, when you use a regular Power Glide clutch, low clutch, or a 350 low clutch, they're always really thick. But you can take a 4L60E clutch that's like 30 thousandths thinner. I'm not for sure on that number, but they're way thinner, And time you get 6 of those clutches and you mic it up, next thing you know, you got 30 thousandths more clearance. You can add another clutch. So, but you can see here, we got 6 clutches in here. But look how I ended up setting this clearance on this thing. Let me find it. Where'd it go? Right here. See, just because you get all the clutches in there and you can't get your clearance right, but you can always take the material off the back of a clutch, put them together like that, and set your clearance that way. So there's multiple ways of setting clearances and getting all the clutches in there that you can get. So everybody's got their own ways of doing things. Now we do have a piston down here that's really shortcut. The piston we pulled out of the other power glide was about that tall. This one here only looks about that tall. So, you know, the case still looks good. The dowel pinholes look good. Servo bore looks really good. So it's back to the same old thing, finding another pump. I mean, luckily we got about 8 cores right here that we're fixing to pull out of the trailer and start pulling them apart and see if we can find pumps. If not, we're looking at almost $600 a pump. $600, guys, and everybody wonders why these older units are starting to cost so much. Find a 350 pump right now. You'll pay $500 for it. It's ridiculous out there what these parts are starting to cost us now. When you tell somebody it's $2,000, you know, $1,700 to a 350, they go, what? Look it up. You know, start pricing these parts. Steels. Let me tell you something. Steels right now, these right here, quadrupled in price. If you buy an overhaul kit with steels, you can add $200 to $300 to that kit just because there's metal steels in there. So it's really gotten out of hand, but there's physically nothing we can do about it. But anyway, guys, don't forget to subscribe, push that notification bell. We got the best camera lady in town. Y'all have a great day.